Good day, fret friends. Welcome back to this 1979 Fender Strat refret. Now, got frets out, not really a problem, but there is quite a lot of marking that was already under these frets. These was a bit of tear out that wasn't repaired the last time it was refretted, so I'm also not going to repair it. It will be fine. The new fret wire I bought is the same size as the old stuff. The old stuff took a bit of getting out. I had to bend the ends a bit, you know, but the new stuff is exactly the same width and height. In fact, I've got the measurements here. Pre-cut Hosco, blah blah blah, and it is 2.4mm wide by 1.4mm high. The actual height of the whole fret, including the tang, is 2.9. The width of the tang is 0.5mm, and the width of the tang with the barbs is 0.8mm, so it's going to sit in really well. There's the older label there. I only use Hosco. Well, I don't only use Hosco, but I mainly use Hosco. 18% nickel silver, and I've actually gone for this time for a pre-radius pack of 24. I've never used it before. I normally radius it myself. I am going to slightly re-radius some of this because we do have a compound radius neck. Like I say, there's the frets removed. I've also removed a nut. The nut was a bind to get out because it was sat on a shim, and the shim all broke, so I had to chip all that out as well. I had to re-sand it in there, but I will be replacing that with a bone, not a curved bone nut, which I've already got. A couple of marks on the fingerboard here at this top side, but you're not going to see it once the frets are in. That's as good as we could expect there. We're not going to need to do any re-lacquering. They've come out pretty clean. Don't know if you can see there. If you want to zoom in, have a look. The frets have come out really clean. All I'm going to do is take my, it's not even a fret, it's not what you call a fretting saw, it's actually a fret slot saw with a 1/2mm wide blade in there, and that will cut to the depth I need to be cut at. I'm just going to show you how to do it. Now, this won't be how I'm cutting them, but I'll be going in there and I'll be recutting the slots, blah 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 blah. I'll get this all up on the, I'll get it in the vise. I could possibly do it just on the bench, but this is how we're working. You get the idea. Get the idea there. Cutting the slots, blah blah blah. And that's what I'm going to be getting on with this morning. So, like I said, I'm just going to check the radius while you're here, because I got it at between 7 1/4 and 12 inches, and I'm just going to go and check that again, because I would imagine we're going to get flatter up to the business end. We are definitely 12 inches at the. Yeah, we are 7 1/4 and 12. I will show you what I mean in a moment when I have got the right gauges in my hand. 9 1/2, 7 1/4. There's a 7 1/4. So let's do two. That's a 7.25 inch radius. We're going to go with the neck end. There you go. That's 7 1/4 there. Let's go to 7 1/4 at this end, and we'll find out that that's nowhere near right. Look at that. Can you see? We are 12 inch radius at that end of the guitar. We'll find the 12. There's the 12. Take the guitar, and that's it. 12 inches. So we do have a compound radius. 7 1/4 this end, 12 that end. So what I will do is I'll be pressing the frets in all the way along the length. I will start with a 12 here, and I'll move to a 10 about here, well maybe about there, move to a 10, move to a 9 1/2 round about here, and move to a 7 1/4 round about here. So I'd imagine I'm going to do probably 5 or 6 frets per call. If I get the calls out, I'll show you exactly what I mean. Some people, what is he talking about? We don't know what he means. These are fret press calls. They're all different radius, or radii, is that the right word? So let me tip them out, and there's your 12, and we'll go with the body end at 12, and going down to a 7.25 at the neck end. I don't know if you will see the difference, but a 12 is a lot flatter radius than a 7 1/4. There you go. 7 1/4 with a 12 behind it. What do you think to that? Do you get it? Do you get how it works? Do you want to see it that way? Got a joke for you, by the way. What's that? It's that dead. Told that at church the other night. We actually quite liked it. So that's it. That's what I'm going to be doing this afternoon. So basically, without further ado, I'm going to crack on and I will come back and give you an update sometime later. A quick update, and I don't think I mentioned in the earlier part, carrying on from part 1, the owner actually did decide to go with the full refret. So you'll see now I've got the neck all taped up at the sides, both sides, and across the top. And I've left enough gap there to glue the frets in. And how I do that is I make, from a piece of fret wire, I file down all the bobs on the side, and I'm able to slot this into the fret and tape both sides of the fret, then I just remove it and moving it along to the next one, like so. Because I'm going with the same size fret wire, 2.4, these gaps are all bang on. We won't get any dripping down the sides, or if we do, it's going to go onto the tape, so we're not going to make any mess. That's going to make things a lot better. I just noticed I've not put a strip down this side here. I shall do that now. I use 3 different widths of tape, 25, 19 and 6mm. I'll go with a piece of 19, 18, 19, 20, somewhere around there. Just to tape up this edge here. And then I can crack on with the refret. Now, one problem I've not thought of yet, or not quite sussed out what I'm going to do yet, is how am I going to clamp in the frets, because it is a compound radius. Basically, compound radius, we've got a tight 7.5 radius here, 7.5 inches and 12 inches up here. It means it flattens out the further you come up with neck, which makes soloing at this end easier. But it means we can't use, well, we can use, and I'm going to have to use, a regular radius block, an aluminium one. But I'm going to do this job in 2 halves, because I would think I'll be able to use a 10-inch one for this half of the guitar, and I'll be able to use a 9.5-inch one for this half of the guitar, maybe even a 7.25. I don't know yet. It'll give me some kind of clamping in there, just to hold the frets in, if nowhere else, at the centre. It's the only way I can really do it. Another way I could possibly do it is to get some padding between the clamp and the frets, but you know, a few layers of paper maybe. And that's going to press into the paper. It's still going to press every fret down. I don't know. I don't think it's that important that I have to get them all pressed properly, because I'm going to get them all in right. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the glue out. The frets, I have radiused all of the frets, all 21, and they have a slightly different radius. If I take fret 21 and fret 1, you will see that they are radiused different. Fret 1 being at the top, tight radius, fret 21 being at the bottom. And I've gone in between on the whole lot. So they're more or less, they're all more tightly radiused than they need to be for each slot. Like that one, for instance, is just over, it was just about a 12-inch radius. It's probably a 13-inch radius there. Don't know if you can see that. Just means I've got to squeeze it in and press it in. And the 7.25 one, well, the radius is down to about maybe 5 inches, I don't know. But it's going to go in. That'll go in really well. Can you see that? So like I say, they're all radius to, not into exact spec, but close enough. Each fret is individually different to the next one. Go from 7.25 there to 12 inches there, and all the sizes in between. Makes it a little bit more difficult, puts a little bit more time on the job itself. It's why it costs a little extra sometimes. But I'm now ready to do the refret. The glue I'm going to use is Type 1 Original. It's what I use. Now what we're doing is, with this Type 1, we are not gluing the frets in. What we are doing is we are filling the gaps between the fret tang and the slot, and we're just filling that in so we don't go hollow and echo. So this is not actually gluing them in, but it is filling the space between, if there's any spaces there. I always go with a 1/2 mil tang lately. Sometimes you get away with 0.6 mil, but it can bend a neck backwards. So I've started using 0.5 mil, which is there, the D measurement, 1/2 millimetre, that's the width of the tang. But with the barbs, it's 0.8 of a millimetre. They're going to hold in really well. You get more of an idea of the chipping that was happened at the last refret as well on there. But we haven't got to fill that in, that's fine. Nothing's going to be protruding out of the sides. So I'm now ready to crack on with getting the frets in, which is what I am going to do. So a little bit of change of approach. Because it is a compound radius fingerboard, I've decided to do frets in 5s, and I've got 5 on, and I've clamped them down with a 10-inch radius. Even though it's a 12-inch radius at this end, it should still give a good clamp. Like I say, I'm only doing 5 at a time, so that means between clamping I've got to wait 30 minutes before I can install any more. On the next sitting I'm going to install 6 frets, then it'll leave me 2 more lots of 5, and this is how I'm working it. I'm using the 7.5-inch call up from frets 1 to 9, from fret 7 to 14, I'm using a 9.5 inch, so it overlaps with the 7.25. The 10-inch call for pressing them, I'm using from frets 11 to 19, so that overlaps with a 9.5. And from frets 17 to 21, I've used a 12-inch call, but overlapping up to fret 19. So all the frets are going to get pressed in using 2 calls, bar the ones down this end. We're all going to use a 7.25 inch call. I may also go with a 9.5 just down there, just to give them a decent press. But I was noticing when I pressed the frets up, and I left them a second or two, I could press them again and get in more squeeze out, which was meaning they're not seated absolutely perfectly. It might have been an idea to use a slightly wider tang on the frets, but it's going to be fine. Now I'm going with the clamping method, so that's what I'm going to do. It means the job's going to be a little bit more long-winded. I'm not going to get it finished tonight, the refret, but you know, that's just the way it goes sometimes. Welcome back, fret friends. I'll show you something you've probably not seen before. And the piece of MDF I normally strap a neck to when I'm levelling the frets and doing the edging. I've done it slightly different this time because I'm going to need to strap this guitar on the jig as it is a complete guitar, and it's better for me to do it like this than it is to use the body, because I'm not going to mark the body. Now the frets I have semi-levelled using fret files, obviously. Been across with a fret rocker. Got them all very close to how they need to be, because when we're doing something like a, well, for instance, a compound radius, we can't just use a radius block and radius all these the same, because we've got a 12-inch radius at this end, 7.25 at that end. So what we do is we follow the 6 lines of the guitar strings to get the radius we want. And I've been across with the fret rocker, but I'm going to show you exactly where we are. Once that's done, I need to level these all off again using the fine sandpaper 400 grit to get rid of any scratches I've got in there. But I'm going to move the camera and I'm going to show you where we are with the frets in relation to them being level, and they are level. And what I must understand is when we radius a fingerboard, we normally have a cylinder and we go and we radius to that cylinder, whatever circumference that cylinder is. But when we're doing a compound radius fingerboard, it is not in the shape of a cylinder, it's in the shape of a cone. And it gets progressively flatter the more you come up towards the body end. So you've got the thin end of the cone at the neck end and it comes out towards the body. And we're going for that cone, so you get a tight radius coming to a flatter radius up the top. I hope I've explained that well. Tight radius at the neck end, flatter radius at the top end. And it's a conical shape we're following. And the only way we can do that is to take it from the centre at the neck end and bring it outwards and flare it out towards the body end. Really, really easy to do when you are using a levelling beam. And for those of you who don't know what a levelling beam is, this is a piece of milled steel, 2x1 inch, perfectly flat, and it has some 240 grit that side for levelling and 400 grit that side for smoothing off. And when I've got this all strapped up on my jig, I'll be going across with the 400 grit side just to take off all the lines I've got in there from filing. And once that's done, once I'm happy that everything is level, I can get on with doing the crowning and the polishing of the frets. It is a big job, this is, but what I must do first is, now I've done the semi-level, what I must do next is I must get the edges of the frets all filed down. I'm going to do it up on the jig over there, but before I do that, I'm just going to show you where the frets are and what condition they are in right now. So I'm going to move the camera, but back in a second. Right, and here we are, and I think we look pretty good just about there. So I will go across and check with the notched straight edge that we have a straight neck. I know we have a straight neck because I've already checked it. That looks pretty good to me. And so we are going to go across with the fret rocker. 3 frets at a time, and you're not going to get any rock because I've already checked this. I'm just going to do it now on the camera. Tiny little bit there. Not going to worry about that tiny little bit. We're going to get all that out with the levelling beam shortly anyway. But for all intents and purposes, these are pretty level frets. I did have to work on a few of them after I refretted it. About half of them, probably just over half of them. We had little areas where they are a little bit high. That's absolutely normal for when we do a refret. Once we have these all levelled, crowned, bevelled, and crowned, bevelled, levelled and crowned, they're going to look amazing. Good 80% nickel silver fret wire, Japanese brand Hosco, which is my preferred fret wire. Plus I'm able to get that a little bit cheaper than some other brands. Jescar being the most expensive because it has to come from America. I can get it from Ireland, but it's still expensive. Jesco is my preferred. Jesco, sorry, is my. Sorry, Hosco is my preferred fretwire. But I also like Syntoms. I've used Boston in the past, and I've used Jesco in the past, and they're all pretty good. I don't have a favourite out of them, but I do always prefer to use 18% nickel silver because it's nice and hard. So that is it. The frets are all level. There's just one down there, just a little bit high. Just there. That's not out of the ordinary. We'll get that all levelled. When it's all on the jig, we'll get that all levelled anyway. So that is it. Next part of the process for me is to get this all on the jig, get it all strapped in, and we can go and get these edges all beveled. So we're now at the bevelling and levelling stage, and you'll see I've got the guitar neck on the jig. I've actually beveled the edges. Normally I would use a 90-degree file, then go over to the 35-degree and do that, which is what I've done. I've not really used this that much because I didn't want to cut into the sides of the lacquer, so I've done a lot of it by hand using my Swiss file, cut number 4, really fine cut. And when I got close with the 90-degree and then with the beveled edge going this way, I finished it all by hand, just slightly angling it over and just coming down the sides nice and gentle. It's time consuming, but it's the best way because you don't want to be digging into the lacquer with the file, otherwise you've got to re-lacquer the whole fingerboard or the whole neck again. I've done both sides, we're nice and smooth down both sides. It's quite long-winded, it takes a couple of hours to get it right, but we are now ready for levelling. Now, when it comes to levelling the frets, even though they are more or less level, I would normally go across with 240 grit sandpaper on the levelling beam and finish off with 400 grit, which is exactly what I am going to do. But what I would normally do is, I would normally tape up the whole fingerboard so we don't get any fragments all over everywhere, but I'll be able to brush them off anyway. But just for the sake of this video, I'm going to go across with a fret rocker again, see where we are, and I'm going to do it without taping up. And I know I've got one high one somewhere across here. Now the neck itself is not uber straight. I cannot get it perfectly straight, but what we do is in that case, or in that scenario, what we do is we get as level or as straight as we can. And there's a tiny nth of relief under there and a little bit of relief at this end. It means the neck sort of goes like up and down and up a bit. You know, and in this kind of scenario, when we've altered the truss rod and we can't get it perfectly straight, what we do is get it as straight as we can, which is exactly what I've done. So what I'm going to do now is, as straight as the neck can possibly be, I'm going to level the frets again. Then we're going to assume that this is the playing position. The truss rod is completely loose, which is how it should be when your neck is straight. But if you look here, we actually have level frets. I've gone across them all, there's no rock anywhere. So we did a good job doing it by hand when it was on the other bench. So what I'm going to do is, now, just following, I'm going to stick a bit of tape just on the end in case we slip anywhere. Just in case if we do slip, we're not going to hurt anything. That's at the end of the guitar. And now I'm just going to go gently across with the beam, just to see exactly where we are. People say you shouldn't go backwards and forwards, so you take too much off the middle. It's a level beam, how can you take too much off the middle? And all I'm going to do is follow where the strings will go. And follow the line of the strings. Where we are when we get around this centre area. These are all saying they're a little bit low because we've still got dark areas there. It means we've got to keep levelling these frets. I would say we have one high fret around here somewhere because these three are still not removing any material. So I will go again with the fret rocker. that one's a little bit high. So that's the one causing the problem, because the ones behind it are fine, it seems. So the high one is this one. I'm just going to take a flat file, just ever so gently just go across. Just a couple of zoots across there. That is the problem fret, this one. It's a little bit high. Still high. A couple of things we can do. We can take another flat file, one a little bit more abrasive. File in question is, or fret in question is that one. This one. So that's the one. I'm going to take a more abrasive file. So there we are. And now, there you go, all the black removed. So we will go again, a little bit more pen. I'm going to go across with a finer grit in a moment. So you are basically seeing this live. Once I've got these levelled, so we're very close, I can move on to getting them crowned and polished. We're going to worry about any of the dust on there, that will all brush off. We're going to clean it all off anyway. Make sure we've not moved, we're still zeroed out on the dial, 0, 0. Let's go with some 400 grit now, the fine side. There to the outside, straight up to the centre, and clear over to the outside. That, to me, looks fine. We're going to go across with the rocker again, see where we are. And these frets are now level. Do apologise if I'm in the way. because we've slightly compensated with the neck not being absolutely straight, we've levelled the frets to basically straight so we can get the neck. So if we leave the neck like that, then we compensate for relief once the strings are on, we're still going to have a perfect level playing surface, because these frets are all level with each other where this neck is. So we are good to go there. I'll move on to the next part, which will be cleaning up, taping up and crowning the frets. We are now ready to re-crown the frets, and I'm going to show you. Well, back on the bolted to the piece of MDF there, I have flat, well, the frets are level. You'll see now they're all covered in pen. Now you may think, have a close look at these frets, and you may see that they're all now flat. You might be thinking, wow, there's some real flat spots here, how much materials are taken off? Now this is the reason that I buy 1.4mm high fretwire. As stated here, the B measurement, 1.4mm is the height from the bottom of the fret where it touches the fingerboard to the top of the crown. I've been measured with my caliper, digital caliper, blah 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 blah. And you may think I've taken off a lot of material. I've taken off a bit of material. I've taken off about 0.25 of a millimetre. So we are still down, hang on, no have I? No I haven't. Less than 0.2 of a millimetre. These are measuring about 1.1 millimetres we have left on the height of it. So I've moved about 0.3 of a millimetre, but that is the reason I buy high fret wire, because having a compound radius, 12 to 7 1/4, we're going to have to remove more material to get the conical shape we need, from this end being the pointed end, for this end to being the cone shaped end. We're going to have to remove more material to get it all right. It is all right now, and I'm ready to move on to crowning. Now by crowning I mean, when frets on, proper frets have been crowned, when the frets are on your guitar, you will see that they have a domed top. I don't know if you can see that there. You might just see the dome if I hold it up there. It's got a domed top, but we're now flattened and we've gone flat, so I need to put that dome back in. It's called the crown. And to do the crown, I have two 3-edge files. There you go. Each edge is ground flat, so we don't dig into the fingerboard. I have that one, which is a rough cut, and this one, which is a uber very smooth cut. This is my favourite one actually. And I will do the main work with this. I'll do the finishing work with this one, being a finer cut, causing less scratches, and I'll do the final profiling with a profiling file. I've got a 3mm side and a 2.5mm side. I'm going to use a 2.5mm side there, and this will remove any burrs that I leave on there. Once that's done, we can move on to the polishing. Now what I'm looking to do is, got a little bit of ink rub off on here, so we'll just go and do these again. What I'm looking to do is get around between a quarter and a third of a millimetre thickness on the top of these frets, and that'll be the contact point between the top of the fret and the bottom of the string. We want it quite slim. We want it certainly no wider than half a millimetre. I would aim for about 0.3 of a millimetre, be a good measurement, because you want the string hitting as little fret as possible, but not little enough where it's going to cut the string in half. So that's what I always aim for. I do it by eye. I've been doing this long enough to know how to do it. So I'm going to crack on. There are plenty of videos of me doing this job. If you want to backtrack a video or two in my list on YouTube, you will see a more in-depth way of how I show how I crown the frets. But because of time, because I've got other things lined up and there's things I want to do this weekend, like England playing, I have a table booked for a restaurant tonight with my lovely wife. So I want to crack on. I don't be wasting time cutting videos and repeating videos that I've already done. So I'm going to crack on with this. I'm going to get them all crowned. Don't need to do any levelling. I've levelled these frets. They are precision levelled all the way across the length of the fingerboard and across the neck. So all I need to do is get these crowned. Once they're crowned, I can move on to the polishing. I thought I would show a little of me crowning the frets. I'm not really going to talk on this. I've explained it a million times before. I'm just going to work, and I'm going to use my various files, and I'm going to get that thin line down the centre of the fret, get that nice crown in there, and I'm going to finish it off. I'm also going to file the edge of the bevels to round them over, but I'm not going to talk. I'm not going to zoom in on any particular area because I'll need to turn this around 180 degrees now and again to do the work. You will hear some music in the background. It is a CD by a good friend of mine, Paul Bell. The album is called First Light. He is a Christian. In fact, he is the worship leader at the church I attend, and is a worship leader of the worship team I am part of. I absolutely love the guy. He's a great singer, great guitar player, and he writes beautiful songs, and I will not be done for copyright for playing this because we are good friends. So you'll hear that in the background. If you like it, go and buy the album. It's called First Light and it's absolutely beautiful. Anyway, without further ado, I am going to work on these frets. I've got my 4 files lined up down this end. I'm not going to do a lot of explaining because I've explained it all before, but you may watch me work for a short while. I've decided that I'm working 1 fret at a time. You'll notice I'm rolling the file away from you to get that nice crown in there. Always clean the file, always. Change now to a finer cut. You probably not see where you are, but I've got a nice thin line running down the centre of this fret now. I'll check with my eye to make sure I'm getting that nice dome in there, which is what I'm looking for. Use a finer file now. Those of you who want to know what this song is called, if you like it, it's called Beautiful and Brave by Paul Bell. I'm not going to explain what the song's about. It's a great song. Go and check it out on YouTube. Check Paul Bell out on YouTube. He's a great songwriter. I'm now going to move on to a fine cut file. I'm going to just round over these edges where the bevel is to remove any sharp burrs. I've got a safe edge there, which is the edge I'll put on the guitar. And this is just a matter of 3 strokes, rolling over. And repeat if you need to. So at this point I will turn 180 degrees and I shall do the other side of the same fret, always wiping the file. And I will finish off with the cut file, which will follow the line, crown I need. 2.5mm wide, this one. Just roll over, remove any extra burrs, and there we go. That's that one done. And what I'll do now is I'll check the level of the fret, make sure it's level everywhere. That's the previous one. The one I've just done is this one. Beautiful. Then I'll check back one. Always check back one and check forward one. Make sure we're level everywhere, and we are. If we have a bit of rock, there's a tiny bit there. There's a tiny bit. I will just level off and check again before I move on, and that's fine. And that's it. I'll move on to the next one. I don't have to turn the guitar around. I'll just turn the neck round every time I do one. So we're always working one end, then another end. I'm going to do one more while I'm here, while you're here. Again, I'm not going to explain anything on this one. I'd tell you the name of this track if I knew it, but I don't, so I can't. How's that grab you? I find these videos interesting. There's not a lot I can tell you. I've explained this lots of times in previous videos. But I can repeat. I'm just looking for that thin line down the centre of the fret. And obviously with files, using files, we are putting scratches in these frets. We're going to get them all out by polishing with various grits of sandpaper later on. We'll remove all of those scratches. Polishing is not just putting a shine on the frets. Polishing is removing scratches and putting the shine on the frets. And that is the next part of the process, next part of the job. And that's where That's quite long-winded. It takes quite a while to do. That's where all the hours go in. Change over the file again, and you learn to feel this. You know when you've cut in enough or you haven't. But you're always looking for this cylindrical half dome on the edge of each fret. Checking for level again, level in the front, level at the back, job done. So we've done another 2 there. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 14 more to do, meaning I have done 7. There you go. So I'm going to crack on and I will come back and give an update when I have finished. Right, and here we are with the frets all crowned. Next part of the process will be the polishing. I'll be going with 5 different grits of sandpaper, from 1000 grit up to 2500 grit, maybe from 800 grit to 2000 grit. And after that's done, I need to fit a bone nut, cut that, and then we can get it all set up again. I'll be honest with you, not been very well last couple of days. I was in bed all day yesterday. I didn't feel like doing anything today, but I've come in and done something today, and I'm not 100%. You know, I'm not right on top form, but like, the crowning is done a good job on there. But I'm going to take my time rather than get this rushed and get it done for Saturday, which I probably could do, but I don't want to rush it. So I've already told the owner, I said, look, Saturday's looking a little bit ambitious with the way I feel at the moment, and you've got England on Saturday as well. I'm not going to be working on Saturday, let's be honest. So that's where we are. So the next part of the process will be the polishing. I'm certainly not filming any of that because I just think I've got time for it right now. But I will come back and give you an update when the polishing is done, and then we can go and fit a nut. Right guys, just coming toward the back end of polishing the frets, and I've been through with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different grits of sandpaper, as you can see there. 6 grits being 800 through 2500, so 800, 1000, 1200, 1500, 2000 and 2500. I've just more or less finished off polishing with steel wool. Here I've got 2 or 3 left to do, or well, I've got 4 to do. So I'm just going to go over in the steel wool across the top, like so. This is the easy part. Into the edge there. Move on to the next one. And this really, really brings a beautiful, beautiful glass-like shine to the frets. Right in at these corners or these edges. Beautiful. Beautiful fret job, this one. Obviously made a little bit more difficult by it being a compound radius, 12 inches at this end, 7 1/4 at that end. The radius is a little bit tighter than I'd like it to be at this end. It's probably nearer 6 3/4 than a 7 1/4 or 7 1/2. But we'll cut the nut accordingly to make that work. It's no great shakes. If I really wanted to, I could flatten these couple of frets down at this end, but I'm going to leave them as they are. See how they are, because it should play absolutely beautiful. So here we are, final fret, and that is all of the frets polished. Now you're not really going to get the benefit from where you are. I'll stick magnifying glass in there, see if that makes any difference for you. But you'll see the benefit when I've got the tape removed. So I'm going to now take this off the jig or out of a vise. I'm going to remove the tape and I'm going to set the camera in its normal position, and I'll show you this once I've got all the tape off. So we are now on an intricate part of the whole process, and that is we now have to cut and fit a nut to fit this slot. Now I would normally use, in this case, I would normally use a Fender blank, which is made of a substance called cyclovac, and it's basically man-made bone, and it's great stuff and it's quite easy to carve and it's fantastic, but it's too narrow for the slot. The slot is actually quite a bit wider than it normally would be, so I'm going to have to use a bone blank. Now the bone blanks I have are cut for a radius of 9.5 for a 9.5 inch radius. This is a 7.25 inch radius at this end, so the radius ain't going to fit. So what I'm going to have to do is, you'll see I've mashed off both sides of the slot there, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill this slot with epoxy, and the gaps at the edge, which are, because the radius is a little bit narrower, the gaps at the edge will be filled by the epoxy glue. I've also got the tightest fitting nut I can find. It's a good shape, it's made of bone, it will sit there on its own, but we will have the tiniest gap underneath, and what I have to do with this is I have to cut this to the exact width, and it's a little bit wider than it needs to be at the moment, but if I show you that kind of idea, there's the tiniest of gap underneath on both sides, very tiny, but enough for you, one, to notice, and two, to create a hollow underneath the nut. I don't want a hollow underneath the nut, I need that to be solid, otherwise the notes are going to ring out sound like a sitar. So first and foremost, I'm going to cut that nut to exact width. I've got a number of files at my disposal to do that, just to get the right width. The actual shaping of the nut itself I can do later. I can do that with it on the guitar, but it's all about getting it on a firm base at the moment. The epoxy I'm using will be, unfortunately I've only got 30 minutes of epoxy. It'd be nicer if I had 5. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix this and I'm going to let it stand 10 minutes before I use it, so it'll already start to thickened. And then I can get it in the slot and I can get the nut on there, and it shouldn't take too long to dry. I've got it taped up because I don't want any mess coming on the side of the guitar. The slots, again, I'm not bothered about. They're a little bit out of where I need them to be anyway, but I will be filing that down enough to get rid of those slots, and I'll be creating new slots. So the width of the nut needs to be, I'll get my calipers and we'll measure it. It's always good to be accurate. So these are some of the jobs you don't really see when I'm filming stuff. But I will get a measure on the width of the nut where I need it to be, and that is saying 40.91. there you go. And to Fender normally 43, or is it a 42mm nut, that's saying 40.91, could go probably a little bit less, so 40.9, well it's 40.9 for all intents and purposes. This nut is, so far, it's at least a millimetre over, so I need to take a millimetre off the edge of this. So I'm going to crack on, I'm going to get this the same width of the guitar, and then we can look at getting it all fitted. Make sure you come back for that. And here we are, all finished, and this guitar is amazing. Just show you the nut. There you go, can you see that? New bone nut, cut by hand, perfect. This guitar plays absolutely awesome. Now, I had the privilege of Derek Crane dropping in last night. I don't know how to say his last name. C-R-E-H-A-N. He is a guitar tutor based out in Nottingham somewhere. Great guy. And he came over and played this last night because this actually belongs to his friend. And it was Derek who told his friend to come and see me about getting his guitar refretted. And he come and played it last night. He says it plays like butter, it's brilliant. So Derek is on his way to collect this now. And look at, there's the new frets. Let me just hold it there for you. But just to recap, what it's had done is, it's a refret. It came in for a refret, and he didn't want me if he could save anything on re-lacquering, he says he expressed a wish to do that. So I says, look, I'll take my time with it, see how we are, and I'll be really careful when I file the edge of the frets. And I was really careful, and it doesn't need lacquering. Now we did have a bit of cracking, splintering when I took the old frets out, but we've covered that up nicely. It's absolutely fine. So it looks brilliant. Fantastic fret job, new nut on there, nice and low. The guitar plays like an absolute dream. So let's recap what it is. It's a 1979 Fender Strat, all black, absolutely beautiful. Well, one other thing I had to do, I had to change a couple of screws around to get the intonation right. The two middle ones were changed around. It all works absolutely fine now. The guitar is an absolute dream. I know it's got mojo, it's got dings and knocks and scratches everywhere, but I tell you what an absolute beauty. It's been a pleasure to work on this. Clive is on his way around now. In fact, he should be here any minute. I've had this plugged in this morning, and it's hard to stop playing this. You just want it. You just want to play it all the time. It's absolutely fantastic. Sounds brilliant from my little Fender Super Champ over there. And I had a couple of overdrives stacked. I had a Maxon OD 808 and a Timmer, just stacked together, just to boost, and it's just absolutely wonderful. What a fantastic sound. So that's it. It's all done. So I'm going to move on to something else. So, boys and girls, I hope you enjoyed this little this video. Quite a long one, I imagine. I don't know how long it is, but you know, I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. And I'm going to move on to something else. So until next time, boys and girls, be good to each other, and I will talk to you soon.